This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Biden's Afghan catastrophe. With us this evening, Jim Hanson, a U.S. Army Special Forces veteran and the president of Security Studies Group. He is the author of the new book, Winning the Second Civil War Without Firing a Shot. Jim, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
Good to be with you, Jamie.
Before we go forward, tell us about the map in the background.
That's a real easy way to get a backdrop that is somewhat pertinent, since I'm pretty sure we're talking about something handing back right there. So,
I see. Okay. Well, look, you're a great authority on this. Tell us a little bit about your background as a U.S. Army Special Forces veteran.
Yeah, well, I was a weapons sergeant on an SFA team. Did a lot of work. I was in 1st Special Forces Group, which means our area of operations was the Pacific Rim. Deployed to 24 countries. I've conducted counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, and counter-narcotics missions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Tell me this, Biden in some of his statements, if that's even what we want to call it, after this disaster with the fall of Kabul, he's saying, it couldn't have been done any other way, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Trump made some excellent points about how, of course, it could have been done another way. There's such a thing as a timeline, conditional withdrawal, et cetera. You see it also as a complete disaster. What's your view of it?
I think they are giving us not even good lies about how badly they handled this. The problem is there are a lot of people who know and understand what it takes to conduct an evacuation during a conflict or during another dangerous situation. The military has protocols for this. It's called a non-combatant evacuation operation. And Biden's crew followed none of the existing standard operating procedures to do it in a safe and competent manner. So what we get is the U.S. looking both foolish and basically losing all credibility on the world stage. It's an embarrassment, and it's not going to do anybody any good in the long run.
Jim, do you think it was possible to do a worse job than Biden did?
It makes you wonder what they were trying to do. What was the goal they were trying to accomplish? And I don't think in this case that there's any way to say they did it competently. And if they were actually trying to make the Taliban look good, they accomplished that more than making the United States look good.
Well, look, I'm not an expert in these things in any way, but in terms of what Trump was saying the other night on Fox, in terms of what you're saying, I'm just thinking just common sense. Maybe reinforce things a little bit, take out all the equipment, take out the citizens there, do a couple things, make a couple conditions. The Trump administration made it very clear. You hit us, we're going to hit you back 10 times harder. So set a couple conditions, and then at the very end kind of do a phased withdrawal. This doesn't take much common sense. But these are leftists after all, right?
And they're not really in a situation where they were looking at the situation on the ground as much as they were looking at the political situation. And consequently, they did a lot of very stupid things. We had Bagram Air Base, which has 2 runways, and we controlled 100%, that could have been used to evacuate all the Americans, to move all the stuff out. Instead, they moved away from that, left that undefended, and now everyone who is a U.S. citizen or is still trapped in country is trying to get to Hamid Karzai International Airport through a Taliban cordon around that, and they're not letting people in. And we're also not sending our troops out to go ahead and break through that and create a safe lane for people to come in. They're just telling people, get there the best you can, and our troops are staying on the tarmac, while the British and the French and others are running missions out into the danger zone to bring their people in. It's disgraceful, and we're embarrassing ourselves.
Yeah, Jim, I'm a little bit surprised because the Biden administration, there's some video out a couple of weeks ago. I'm still a little bit not sure what it was or how to describe it, but there's some kind of feminine guy dressed up kind of weird, prancing around the White House. And then Jen Psaki's in. I don't know what that was. Maybe you know what video I'm referring to. But I'm surprised the Taliban wasn't trembling in their boots after watching that.
You know, and we literally had the LGBT flag flying at the embassy in Kabul and on a couple of our bases in the not too recent future. When we're in a country that literally has that considered a crime. You know, so if you want to go ahead and pretend that pushing the woke agenda is the most important thing that the US military can do, great, it's a mistake. But what happens when now we're in full retreat and all those people we left behind are facing the barbaric savages who are rolling in this Islamist terror group that is now taking over and gonna probably declare a caliphate in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. You know, just in terms of these savages, in terms of evil, I've studied the left my whole life. Very complicated matter because we know that they're very evil. We know that the left knows evil very well because they're evil, and malice is at the root of what they're doing and all of that. At the same time, there's just this bizarre either pretense at not knowing evil or just a surreal blindness, because when Psaki's talking about how, you know, the Taliban's really going to have to consider whether they want to be recognized by the international community, and Biden's the other night talking about how, you know, they've just got a really confusing moment right now trying to figure out if they want to be, you know, respected internationally. Like, this is the Taliban. They're not worried about respect in the international community. These are soldiers of Allah following Islamic doctrine and the Quran, trying to kill the infidels. It's sort of like talking about Hitler and Stalin and saying, well, they're, you know, Hitler, you know, he's just a little bit confused right now. We got to make it clear to him that if he wants to be recognized internationally, it's mind-boggling how they think in terms of what evil there is in the world, right?
It's a naivete I can't even begin to get my head around. Like you're telling Hitler, well, you know, maybe you don't want to kill all the Jews. You know, maybe that's a tad bit overboard because people won't like it. As you said, the Taliban could not care less what benighted liberals around the world think of them. As a matter of fact, those liberals are going to go into camps and either be re-educated or submit to the Taliban if they get what they want, which is a global caliphate. So the idea that they're somehow going to say, oh, you know, we want the UN to like us. We want the woke left to tell us how nice we are. We want a stripe on your new rainbow flag, you know, for us. That's not even in their comprehension. They're busy machine gunning people because they disagree with their religious views. That's the Taliban.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a minute to go to our sponsors.
Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. While you're there, make sure to use promo code GLAZOV. You will get yourself a wonderful discount, and generous portion of your purchase will be donated to Glazov Gang channel on YouTube, so the one and only wonderful Dr. Jamie Glazov can keep on fighting for our freedom.
Where I'm referring to the complexity here, of course, is on the one hand a tremendous naivete, how they live in a fantasy world about what we just said, and yet we know that the heart of darkness in the left, how they've supported the Castros and Mao and Stalin and communism and Islamic Jihad throughout the years and throughout the decades. So we know that there's a tremendous amount of evil there, and what an entity the left is, just really scary stuff. Now, what we have here now is more and more, whenever it's Jimmy Carter, when it's Obama, now Biden, whenever we've got these leftists in power, America becomes a laughingstock in the world in terms of our credibility. Is there any credibility left, Jim? I mean, is China really scared about touching Taiwan? I think if Trump was in power, they'd be scared. with Biden in power, they're smoking cigars with their feet up on a desk, right?
And they're not even sure he'd notice if they took Taiwan. Maybe Joe'd be busy getting his afternoon ice cream or his butterscotch pudding. No, there is absolutely no fear by any of the tyrants in the world, because they know that Biden is actually worse than when it was the Obama-Biden team. Now he has taken their policy of cringing capitulation and added an element of not even being present in the moment to see what's going on. No one fears us. The world is laughing at us. And that's not just bad for the United States. That's dangerous for all freedom-loving people around the world. And we're going to reap the whirlwind of that as those tyrants go ahead and make their presence felt.
Well, Jim, we're definitely in a time when we're just completely polarized. And there's those of us that love America. We understand that it's the last bastion of freedom. We love what it's based on the pursuit of happiness and individual liberty and the right to private property, and on our belief in a creator. And then we've got the people that hate the United States, are trying to teach little kids today that it's based on, hatred and racism, and they're stopping traffic in the streets and the BLM riots, and they're causing all these things to happen in the world. And your book is about that. Your new book is about winning the second Civil War. And you believe that there is a civil war upon us now. Tell us a bit about your new book and why it's so relevant.
Well, I think we can see, having watched, the year of riots during 2020, when BLM and Antifa took to the streets, burnt, beat, and murdered their way into getting the policies they wanted, that the left is willing to use violence to get what they want. And then they exploited the 3-hour riot on January 6th as if that was the actual Fort Sumter moment. What's going on, Jamie, is the woke left is working at the tail end of 40 to 50 years of fundamental transformation of this country. They took over academia. They took over then the training of teachers to, as you said, indoctrinate our kids to hate this country. They run the permanent bureaucracy that runs all levels of government. They control our culture. And unless we on the right go ahead and focus ourselves inward on those things, granted the world's burning, but America is actually at risk. Our republic is still more at risk from the woke left than it ever will be from the Taliban. And consequently, we need to focus on those things. We need parents to take care of what's going on in their schools and fight for what's right. And we need everyone who is generally hates politics as much as I do to get involved with it, because we have to put our people in power, people who do love this country, not the ones who are trying to burn it down and build a socialist paradise.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. And you stress that the left has an advantage, and this is a very important point, because look, I've been in this battle since I was just a kid. My parents are from the Soviet Union. They were dissidents. We're that story of, I'm that story of the child of Soviet immigrants that loves America, wants to defend it, etc. And as I studied the left, I always understood and I saw that they fight 24/7. They're ruthless. The personal is political. They fight constantly. They're full of hate. Unfortunately, conservatives, they like to have barbecues, trim lawns. A lot of them are like Mitt Romney. They just want to be nice. That's why Trump was so effective. He fights. But a lot of conservatives shy away from that. They want to be nice. They think that we all want the same thing, but they're very blind to that. And the left has these Alinsky-style tactics. They took, as you said, they took over academia. They took over the media, took over Hollywood, took over the higher culture. They just own everything now. But you're the right guy to teach us and inspire us. You have a background in counterinsurgency operations. You know how to fight for hearts and minds. What do conservatives need to do?
We just got to get in the fight. We have a couple fundamental advantages over the left. Number one, as you mentioned, most people on the right are not obsessed with changing our culture or changing our country because we knew it works. We knew that the founding principles are still valid. We had some mistakes. We had some major problems with America at the founding. but we fixed those. And the idea that now this country is still a broken place, like the left says, is just, it doesn't jive with the facts. And that's, I discussed that in the book, that systemic racism doesn't fit, once you look at the facts, it no longer stands up. And what we need to do is now our team needs to get in the fight. And it's always been scary because we were busy raising families, working, concentrating on foreign policy, national security, and business. Well, we can't anymore. We have to go back and fight for our schools, fight for our government, and fight for our culture in ways that now lead us to have to reteach a couple of generations what America is really about. They've been lied to in school, and we need to give them a reason to understand that the freedoms we have are so much better than anybody else in the world. They're worth fighting for.
Right. And the left hates those freedoms. Jim, in terms of what Biden just perpetrated just now, what he oversaw, what he aided and abetted in terms of Afghanistan, not even to mention what's going on at the border and all this other stuff, in your mind, does he deserve to be impeached?
I think hopefully he'll be taken out by the 25th Amendment before we even get to the new House controlled by the Republicans in 2023. So I think the Republicans will take back the House in 2022. And if they do, they should absolutely impeach him. There are so many high crimes and misdemeanors, starting with FARA violations with him and Hunter and the corruption and all of the things he's done, unconstitutional acts like, extending the eviction moratorium, knowing that it was illegal. There are a dozen things they could charge him with, and they should. But I don't think he's going to make it that far. I think he's fading quickly and getting a little less capable every day, and he wasn't very competent to start with. And I think they may have to remove him before that. So I think we may be talking about a President Harris. Not that that's better, but Biden absolutely cannot sit in the commander-in-chief's chair. He's not competent.
Right, and I was going to ask, the thought of Kamala as a president, just even that laugh alone, but that whole, there's authenticity. For me, Trump, 100% authentic guy. I love Trump, and it's just it was just great watching him and listening to a very authentic guy. I find Kamala the polar opposite, completely inauthentic, totally out of her realm. That will be another disaster, right?
Oh, without a doubt. She's a horrible person. And the only real advantage to having her as president, first of all, she will empower the worst parts of the Democrat Party. So we will have to hopefully have a Republican House and Senate that can at least put the brakes on that. But I can't think of anyone I would rather have the Republicans run against in 2024, the next presidential election, than that cackling hyena. Because even her own party doesn't like her. I think they'll primary, to be honest. I think if she is president, when we get to the 2024 season, that they will run Pete Buttigieg and a bunch of the others will take a run at her because they can't stand her either.
Scary, troubling times. Jim Hanson, a lot of our viewers right now are on the edge of their seats, inspired. They want to check out your work. They want to visit where you're at. Where do they go?
You can go to Amazon. The book is Winning the Second Civil War Without Firing a Shot. And I want to emphasize that we still have plenty of constitutional ways to beat the left at their own game. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you can get it, or I'm Jim Hanson DC on Twitter, and we have a lot of fun there.
Fantastic. Jim Hanson, thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for your courage and nobility and your fight for freedom and for America.
Right back at you, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang this evening. Jim Hanson, his book is Winning the Second Civil War. Get it. And we'll see you soon. Good night. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I recently got one of Mike Lindell's pillows and comforters at mybillow.com. And I started getting some of the most restful sleeps in my life. And you can do the same. Go to mypillow.com and use code GG21 to get incredible and amazing discounts. Or just call 1-800-854-0673. While you're doing that, you'll know that you're supporting Mike Lindell, a true American hero fighting a true American cause. And you'll also be supporting the Glazov Gang. Thank you. May God bless you, and may God bless America.